Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for blessing us with good health. We thank you for all that you bring to this meeting, and we ask for your guidance and all of the decisions that we make for our citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Can we get a roll call, Shelley? Yes, ma'am. Janice Taylor? Here. Joe Deere? Aye. Keith Austin? Here. Harley Buzzard? Here. Joe Byrd?
Honey?
Julia Coates?
Here.
Sean Crittenden?
Here.
Mike Dobbins?
Here.
Kanan Duncan?
Honey?
Rex Jordan?
Here.
Darrell Legg? Wes Snowfire? Dora Petzkowski?
Here.
Mike Shambaugh? Mary Bakershaw? E.O. Smith? Victoria Vasquez? We have a quorum. The minutes of the May 27th meeting were mailed to you. I would entertain a motion to approve those. Have a motion and a second to approve the May 27th minutes. All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Okay, that brings us down to our reports. Cherokee Nation Business CEO Chuck Garrett. Take it away, Chuck.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to join today. I just wanted to give you some oversight, some broad summary of the performance of your businesses. As you've seen in our reports earlier, the detail will give you some indication that we are running strong. Our gaming business continues to recover. We're continuing to get back to normal operations, and the numbers reflect that. And we're very proud of the team that's working so hard to continue to make gains. Regarding our federal contracting business, we continue on a strong course there, as the numbers in your report indicate, heading to some record performance in that business as well. So feeling good about the direction we're going, and appreciate all the support that you've given us and the chief and his administration as we navigate our way back to normal course of business. So thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Chuck today? Go ahead, Counselor No Fire.
Hey, Chuck, I kind of got a few phone calls regarding employees. One is, I think, since everything's kind of opened back up, there's a lot of new opportunities for other casinos that are offering, big signing bonuses and higher wages. I noticed that it seems there's kind of a threshold of where we're seeing employees leaving, or what are we doing to maybe keep that retention? And then also, I guess, do we have a hiring freeze for our salary employees?
Let me take both of those questions. Let me just kind of go back to the wage question first, Counselor. As I mentioned the other evening in our tribal council meeting, we constantly monitor the market in terms of where we are versus our competition. We have market studies that we do for virtually all positions, or all groups of positions. And so we're constantly monitoring that. And it also, we can tell to some degree by the number of open positions we have. We're having trouble filling positions. Of course, that suggests that we're not being competitive for one reason or another. We're not seeing that at the moment. I think generally speaking, all of our competition, and we are looking for the workforce to come back off of some of the unemployment premium payments that have been made. And so we'll continue to monitor that. Our retention numbers, and that's you're right on point with the question, but our retention numbers also don't suggest that we are below market in our compensation. We monitor that and will continue to do so. I mentioned last meeting, our success has been that we're able to hire some of the best and brightest, and that'll continue to be key as we move forward. And you can't do that if you're not competitive on the compensation front. There's no hiring freeze. We hire positions as they become available or become necessary. In some cases, if there's a position that has become available, we make the decision of whether or not we want to backfill that, whether we need to backfill that. In some cases, there may be positions that through whatever reason, just the evolution of the business, that we have to redefine the role. And so we'll be looking for somebody with, a little bit different skill sets. But there is no hiring freeze at CNB.
Okay, good. And then I know we've got you said we gonna have an outstanding year with 8A contracts. Do we have a breakdown or a percentage of how many of those contracts are staying in reservation versus how many of those 8A contracts are outside the state?
Yes, and I think, one thing to keep in mind, we have a breakdown on where all the contracts are but just to keep something in mind, regardless of where the actual work is being done, on the contract, all of the back office work, whether it's HR, marketing, accounting, those support services are housed right here in the reservation. And so we see a growth in those numbers as they're required to support the contract work. But we could certainly give you, and of course it changes, but we can give you the snapshot of where the work is being, contract work is being done at any one time.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's just an evolving thing.
I was looking at it because growing up, I always saw CNI as being, over in Stillwell. I thought, okay, great, we're putting a lot of Cherokees to work, and I thought the whole purpose of 8A contracts was to employ Cherokees. And I know that's good that you said as far as the hub that goes on there, but, since we've labeled under Cherokee Federal, and I pull up the website, we have contracting vehicles, which basically means that we're selling our 8A contract ability to other people who aren't Cherokee, so that way they can get a purchasing from the federal government for 8A contract using our status as being a tribally owned entity, but then working with non-tribal employees outside the state. So for me, it's kind of like, well, I thought the purpose was to be putting Indians to work inside of our Indian reservation and not selling out the Indian 8A contracting ability to someone who's not tribal.
Yeah. Well, we have a dual mission, as you well know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but certainly providing career opportunities and job opportunities for Cherokee citizens is critical. And it is one of our two, I would say, primary obligations and commitments. The second, of course, is to provide the nation with a healthy dividend. And that, is where the Cherokee Federal business model comes into play. We do employ Cherokees at the hub, as I've described, but in your detailed financials, you'll see that the reward and the dividend to the nation is substantial, coming from that business unit. And so, I think we can do both. I mean, I think we can, we have two wonderful business units. As we move forward, I'm sure there'll be a third that we identify. But it is that, that sort of balancing of delivering a healthy dividend to you, your appropriation, and employing citizens. So, I don't think we're disagreeing. I think, I'm agreeing with you that is a primary mission. But I don't see that as being at odds with what we're doing at Cherokee Federal.
Okay, just some of the business contracts and stuff that we're seeing, I don't know if it's the best. Some of them, you're seeing, I've seen and obviously seen where some of the jobs are being offered at outside the state and what they're regarding to, but it doesn't maybe seem like it's the mission of the Cherokee people to want to get involved in those specific kinds of business. So it's just, taking all that in consideration. We're not the driving force of CNB. Obviously, we don't have control over it. But some of the contracts that I've seen, I'm going, well, that doesn't really that doesn't help Cherokee people. I see the dividend check, but it's also, well, you want to make money, but what do you want to do to make that money is always the question in the air, so. But anyways, I appreciate the dialogue on that and learning more about it, so, thank you.
Absolutely.
Mike D.
Chuck, do you know when we'll have new episodes of OCO TV?
Well, thank you for that. We have, of course, it'll be season 7. They have not shot the first episode yet, but they have done the planning, and I don't know really their production schedule. I can find that out and get it to you. But we just had a meeting earlier in the week about season 7, and I know they've got some really interesting things lined up for us, but I think I'll have to get you the specific production dates, because I don't know those offhand.
Thank you, Chuck.
Chair.
JD.
Hey, Chuck G. I just want to clear something. As an 8A contractor, I mean, a lot of people don't know 8A and understand the 8A process or the DBE with the state. Those are two different things. DBE is a minority contract. There's a 7 to 10% on every contract. If Counselor Legg is a non-Indian, has a contract, his bid will not get accepted until he has a DBA contractor in that contract. So that automatically goes to the minority. As an 8A contractor, it would be, there is 8A contractors in the state of Oklahoma, and we can employ Cherokees there. And I get what you're saying, Wes, but where the 8A thing is, there's people in Dubai that you get contracts right out of Tulsa as an 8A contractor. We got people in Dubai, we got people in Germany. It's not here, the Boston, I mean, the Big Dig, if you guys have ever heard of those highway contracts. That money you would not be able to get in the state of Oklahoma. But if you're an 8A contractor and you become the primary 8A contractor, you can awesomely get a $450 million contract. The thing is, a lot of people in this area are not willing to relocate to those jobs. But like he's saying, the back office, whether it's accounting, accounts payable, purchasing materials, the tribal benefit because they can sell those materials to the 8A contractor. So yes, there is a double-edged sword, Chuck, in employing Cherokees. It's sort of like the Taro program. I mean, you got to go find a Cherokee petroleum engineer that's Taro. You probably aren't going to find that. Like we talk about buying equipment. I've heard people say, let's buy a John Deere equipment because he's Taro. Well, I don't know of a Taro vendor that owns John Deere. They may be a broker, but in reality, that's not real. So, but the 8A is a little different on the federal, but employing people in Oklahoma that are Cherokee, that's where I would say would be most beneficial as 8A with federal, is working directly for federal in here, not just the jobs out, because the dividends get bigger as you go out, the larger you become as an 8A contractor. It's actually a 23.9, Chuck, and you can tell me, I think it's 23.9 before you move out of the mentor program, and then you become a primary, and then after you're in the system, like if you're working at Fort Sill, you automatically, and I hate to say automatically when you're bidding, but they're so used to you doing that work because it might be phase 1 or phase 20, but it's the same project. Because they allocate the money, whether it's 15 million or 30 million at a time. But to get that money, the dividend does come back, and the reason we get that dividend is, the 2.2 billion worth of contracts, that's a lot. But when you start working federal projects, your end money might only be 7%, but 7% doesn't sound like a lot unless it's on a
$2 billion.
Yeah, unless it's on a $2 billion contract. But I do think, yeah, Cherokee Federal is a good place for Cherokees, if they can, to work there on those projects, whether it's with Cherokee Federal or anything, to be involved in the 8A, because there is a lot of money there. You can start as a data entry. You can be an estimator. You can be a safety officer. You're still going to make a lot of money. But I just want to clear that up. If people have not been involved in 8A, and the process to become an 8A is not easy. They're making it easier now. It's now electronically. You used to have to submit everything, get an approval, do a site check. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You had to list if you had 20 pins in your office, because the federal government is just as bad as the audit that they put us under. But I hope that clarified it up. I mean, it's just situations that I would deal with every day when it comes to 8A. So that's all I had. Hope that cleared some of that up, and that was all I had to say. Thank you, Chair.
we have any other questions or comments for Chuck? Seeing none, I'll let you go, Chuck. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you all very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Brings us down to our treasurer's report. Traylena Scott. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
You too.
Okay. So, I've been vaccinated, so I'll take this off. You guys have my regular monthly report, so I will be happy to entertain any questions on that. I did want to update anybody who's interested really quickly on the individual COVID assistance payments. We started making those payments on June 14th, I believe. The applications opened on June 1st, and on June 1st, we received 105,850 applications. So that was a big influx of applications on June 1st. So then we started, obviously we started processing them at that point, and we started making payments through the JP Morgan Chase Bank electronic payment application on June 14th. And since that date, we have sent 75,750 payments out, totaling $151,500,000. So, and that includes 15,000 payments that are going out today. So if we back out the 15,000 payments that are going out today, let's see here. 54,785 of those have been accepted electronically. That represents 90% of the payments that have been sent out have been accepted by the citizens as electronic transfers directly into their bank account. 1,434 have elected to have checks printed, and that represents 0.02%. 154 of those have been declined, which means that those will roll over and checks will be printed. So I guess you can add that to the 1,434 number. And then we have about 4,300 that are pending. So I think those are pretty good numbers. I'm very happy with and impressed with the 90% acceptance rate on the electronic transfers. I think that's really good for the citizens. It's really great for us. It's, much less expensive, and there's a lot less potential for fraud when there's the direct electronic payment. So with that being said, I will answer any questions. you might have.
Have any paper checks actually started rolling out yet?
Yes, they have.
I have had a lot, not a lot, but I've had at least one call a day this week from people that said, I entered my information yesterday, the money was in my account today. So you guys you're killing it over there, and everybody is very appreciative, I'll tell you, from District 15. They are. I did have one question, and it is regarding when people are on certain types of government assistance, whether they're elderly or disabled, handicapped in some way, there is a stipulation that has to do with certain balances in their accounts, in their checking accounts. And I brought this question up before, or it's been brought up in here, as to will this count against their income? and the answer was no, like for Medicare purposes and that, I mean, for Social Security purposes and that sort of thing, it would not be counted as income. But can you speak to this balance in their account? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I haven't heard specifically about the balance in the account. I would say, I mean, I think I'm vaguely familiar, but I know just enough that I might be dangerous in answering a question. So let me do a little bit of research on it. My gut tells me that because of the tribal general welfare exclusion, which is a statute under the IRS code that specifically says that this is excluded from the individual's gross income. So it is not counted as gross income. So, you know, therefore, in my opinion, it should not count against them, whether it, you know, is
Yeah.
in their bank account or not. That is my initial answer. But let me do a little bit more research and make sure that that is 100% correct.
Okay, perfect. I'll circle back in about a week
Okay.
and just kind of see where we are and possibly even give you the name of this person to call and so that you can better understand their question and they can better understand what statutes you're looking at and that sort of thing, okay?
Okay.
All right. Darrell, did you have something to add?
Yes, and Sarah Hill, if you can come in here, please, this might be for you too.
Counselor Taylor.
It's your turn.
You know, we might look and see what programs we have here at Cherokee Nation and give us a list. We might go, may take a look at that and get back with us that it might affect, you know, whether we're talking about a balance or the income. I tell people that it's non-taxable.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think I'm correct in that.
I have gotten with Human Services and Career Services on a couple of those and made sure that, like, for TANF and those programs,
Right.
that this
Right.
money did not count against them for those programs. So hopefully I have that basis covered, but I will circle back with all of those and make sure that that's not counting against our participants.
Okay,
I've
Darrell,
had a
you still
couple of
have a question?
situations where you have a divorced couple, the person with the custody goes to try to set up the portal account, and one of the other parents has already entered the kids' information. Are we stepping in to say, in the custody situation, I don't know if, are we going to fight for those people to get that money back for those kids, or, they're,
are they both tribal members?
yeah.
That
Yeah,
would
but-
be a matter for the civil courts to decide. I mean, these sorts of things arise, you know, pretty frequently. You know, a child inherits property from a grandparent, and then the custodial parent may not be the family member that they inherited it from. In the civil court, if a parent has a claim like that, and they say, hey, I'm entitled to that money, they have a divorce court that they got that original custody arrangement from, and they need to take that back to that civil court to get the judge in that court to issue an order, because that's not something that we, the Cherokee Nation, can, I mean, those are not decisions that we can make. Those are decisions that need to be made by the court that has jurisdiction in that particular case.
Okay, okay. That's what I'll do. Thank you.
Mike Shambaugh?
I don't know if you can answer this one, but I've had a couple of people say that they got on there early in June, and whenever they hit the button, it said pending. Today, she checked it. She says it still says pending. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, I understand what that means, but is that something normal? I mean, is it still pending for her and her two kids? If they did it like the 1st of June, it could still be going through the process, I take it?
Yes, absolutely. That would be normal. You know, because we had the, like I said, on June 1st, we had 105,850 applications just on June 1st. And we are processing those in the order that they were received. And so far, we've pushed out 75,750 payments. So we haven't quite got through all of the applications that even came in on June 1st just yet. So that's completely normal, and we are working on that, but we are getting them out pretty quick. We're doing, about 15,000 every few days. So I expect that, within a week or so, we'll be probably pretty well caught up to what we have in the system pending.
Well-
I'd say maybe 3 weeks to where we get caught up.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, and that's what I told them, but the only other thing I had was, I was unaware that they would be getting text messages. That kind of blew me away first, because several people got text messages and were saying, hey, is this legit? And I said, I don't think so, because we don't do text messages. And of course, when I call, we do text messages, so I just wish we would be told, because I just thought it would all be by email. And I know that it's more efficient. I mean, it's just a better way to do things. And you guys have done a good job of getting the money out, because, we kind of struggled with, 48,000 before. And now, because you've learned from that, and you guys are doing a good job. But if you just keep us in the loop a little bit, and, got my answer, but I just didn't know it would be by text message too.
Hopefully you guys would have received maybe that email. So each time we call them batches. So the 15,000 that are going out today, we call that a batch that we upload to Chase. And before we push out that batch, there's an email that we send out to everyone who's going to get a payment that day. That it looks like it comes from the Cherokee Nation, and it's like kind of from Chief, and it talks about the Chief and the Tribal Council have, approved this, and you should be getting your payment soon. And it actually has screenshots of like what the email from Chase should look like, and like a screenshot of what the text message should look like. So hopefully you've seen that. If you haven't, I'd be happy to send you an email of that. And everyone who gets a payment on that day should get that email prior to getting the payment, so that should tell them that it's like a legitimate payment if they have a question.
So the difference is the texts are JP Morgan and the emails are Chase.
I think they're both have the same logo. It's all JPMC, JP Morgan Chase. It's
Yeah.
the same.
Well, that's
company.
just kind of what threw me at the first when there was a text and it said JP Morgan. I just wasn't aware of it, so,
Okay.
but I am now. Thank you.
Counselor Coates?
Thank you. I have a situation where someone has contacted me. They have received their payment, but they had 2 children on their application with them, and they didn't receive anything for the children. Would those be going out in different batches, or what might explain that?
It's a possibility. I would expect that they would probably go out at the same time, unless they did theirs first and then went in and amended, because you have 48 hours to amend your application, and you can go back in and add your children on. So maybe if they did theirs like in the morning, and then late that evening, they went in and amended it, or maybe the next day they went and amended it and added the children, then it may be a delay between the two. But I would say if they don't receive their payments for their children within the next week, to give it that, call that phone number that's associated there and inquire about it, just to make sure that something hasn't happened.
Okay. No one can get through on that phone number. No one. That's repeatedly, I'm hearing that. The calls are not returned, they can't get through, the emails are not returned. So I'll tell them that, but they're not going to be happy to hear that. But I will check with them if they can, to see if they did add it later on, add the kids later on.
Counselor Taylor.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say, not for Counselor Coates' sake, that's the vast majority of my problems is a lot of folks sign their kids up and they may have gotten a notification for themselves, but not their children. And not to contradict what you said, Treasurer, but I think Chief of Staff's suggestion to me was those kids will have to go back on there and apply individually for the kids. Isn't that correct, Chief of Staff? Instead, so I just didn't want anybody to say, just wait for it. You know, those constituents probably need to go back and reapply for their children, because that's most of ours have been in that same boat.
Well, if I may, so I think what the treasurer said is accurate, as well as Counselor Duncan. So if an individual has signed up their children on the portal, we want to encourage everybody to go back onto the portal. You can check your status and ensure that your kids are on your application. If for some odd reason they had a data entry error and they do not see their kids on their application, then they should go back and apply for their children because they haven't been associated. So what Treasurer said is accurate, as well as what Counselor Duncan said. In response to Counselor Coates, I did some checking yesterday. On a normal day, the Cherokee Nation receives 1,000 phone calls on our phone system. Yesterday, we received 30,000 phone calls. So if citizens are listening and they're curious about what their payments are, I'm going to encourage them not to call and take this information that we're sharing today to say we're still working on June 1st payments. And if you'll give us a little bit of time, those processes are coming through. I believe what is happening right now is everybody is calling saying, I want to know where my payment is. If you can check on the portal, and we'll put some more information out there to share the statuses so they know where they are in the process in the queue. But we literally received 30,000 phone calls yesterday alone. And that's why people are having difficulty trying to get through. And that portal assistance was really designed to help people get signed up on the portal and answer questions and make sure they got things set up correctly. And they should we're encouraging all the citizens to use the portal to check their status and verify where their payment may be, and also check to make sure their kids are associated with their application as well. If that, hopefully, Counselor, that addresses your question. We're trying to figure out ways to work on changing the greeting on that phone system to try and answer many of the questions that people may have as well.
Okay, we've got quite a line here. Counselor Shaw?
Hi, is this working?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether this is a Chief of Staff question or a Trey Lena question, but is there any chance that we can mail out a letter or a card to all our Cherokee citizens, especially the at-large, to see to it that they are notified that this opportunity exists?
I believe that there are plans to do so. I want to say that we're going to shrink that down to those who have not already signed up for the portal in order to save money, because those mass mailings are quite expensive. So we're going to narrow it down to citizens who have not signed up for the portal, and then we're going to do a mail out for those citizens to make sure that they're informed of not only the opportunity to sign up for the portal, but also for the opportunity for the individual assistance.
Do you know about when that will happen?
That would be a Chief of Staff question.
That should go out next week. We actually ran the list yesterday for that. We're cleaning it out to only grab head of household because that list was about 200,000. And so rather than sending to all 6 members of a household, we're sending 1 card per household. And they are working on printing up the cards now, and so it should go out first part of next week.
What up?
What?
And I'm glad you're scrubbing that list of people that have already applied, because we ran into that with the elder assistants, and they would apply numerous times because they got a phone call or they got a mailer or something. So we learned something, didn't we? Victoria?
I want to make sure, and this is probably for Chief of Staff, that I'm giving out correct information. Had a gentleman call the other day that was trying to help a veteran apply, and the veteran did not have email. And this gentleman has called 3 days in a row and never was able to get through to a voicemail or anything. What I told him was, he called me on Monday, and I said, don't try today. Monday's always a horrible day. When you do try again, please start early in the morning and be patient. Now, should they stay on, like if they, does it just ring and ring and ring if they don't? I mean, I wouldn't think first thing in the morning that there'd be 1,000 people calling at the same time. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what to tell them for sure.
I will tell you, if you've got a name for us, we can try and find somebody to reach out to them, assist them with that one. But we get busy very early. They start calling. So much so that I've tried to make a couple of phone calls in the last couple of days, and the Verizon network, I believe, is overwhelmed. So we're taxing the phone system, not just of Cherokee Nation, but also of carriers and providers in the area, so.
Follow-up to that would be, should I tell them wait 2 or 3 weeks if it's not urgent? I mean, that's what I'm telling them, hold on a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they can wait, because of the volume of people that are calling to ask questions about payments, I believe that will die down as the finance department gets the opportunity to work through that in the next couple of weeks. I believe our volume of calls will begin to die down.
Mike Shambaugh?
I just want to give you guys some kudos too in a different way. I went to Kansas today and Chief was there and they had a sign up and they had some young people. Where are they from? Where's those young people from?
Those are the interns.
Those are summer youth interns.
Man, I'm telling you, less than 5 minutes per car, easy.
Okay.
These kids were getting after it, and people were just in and out. But also, I'd like to give some kudos to the office in Jay, too, because the other day I had 2 that just did not have email, they were elders, they just didn't want to do that, they wanted paper. And I gave them to the Delaware County office, and they had them done, both of them done in less than 5 minutes. So, you know, they signed those 2 people up for paper in less than 5 minutes. So I'll get with you. But, man, there's some people doing some good work out there, and these drive-throughs are really fast and efficient. That's a good deal. Kids are working.
Counselor Austin?
Yes, you said that the applications, is there not a process to go back and amend it to add children to it?
I need to double check that to make sure. So on the application, we allow the parents or custodians to append minors to their application. And I believe once the application's been flagged and processed and paid, I'm not sure, I think that may be locked, but let me double check that to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens when the children are not citizens yet? Because this happens in my family, because I've got all kinds of young grandkids right now, and they're all in the process. The parents have filed. At some point in the next year, their children will become eligible. So what happens then? And their children are 1 year old. They don't have emails, my friend.
Yeah. Let me do some checking on that.
We're gonna have a lot of that by the end of the year.
Right. And there's a couple of options, and let me do some checking, because we want to make sure we have good accounting to make sure that we're not double paying people or inappropriately paying people, and so that's why we're locking those records once they've been paid. And I believe we're locking that record as a whole, but I'll double check and see if we're doing individuals. I know that's a technical term, but I need to make sure that we're locking the application versus locking the individuals. If we're locking the individuals, then we might be able to do an append, but I need to verify that to make sure it's going to work correctly.
Well, I've had several in my community who've said that, you know, they've got their payment, but their kids, and then they go look, and their kids don't show up on their application, but they know they added them. So I know that's happened to a fair amount of people, because all of us have had that experience, I believe, at some point. So for them to add their kids at this point, right now, they have to go create an individual account for that kid, right? And they were adding the kid through this process because you know, they were not having an email or whatever. So basically, they have to, at this point, that's the only option they have.
Correct, at this
Well, we
point.
gotta correct
yeah.
that. We've
Yeah.
got to, because that's not working. For those people who, for whatever reason, technical reason or whatever, didn't get processed, because I've had multiple people tell me, I put my kids on there and they didn't show up when I went back to check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Crittenden?
You know, as I was enlightened about my law enforcement issue earlier, I was also enlightened about another thing by Todd on a situation, and it's really helped me, kind of like that law enforcement deal. I was halfway right on that deal, by the way. It kind of bugs me. But anyway, now back to Keith's thing, Todd. I want to make sure I'm telling them right. Now, when that happens, all I've been telling them is, hey, go to Yahoo. It's really simple. Create them an email. And 90-something% say, okay. So I'm still right by telling them to do that, right?
Yeah, and we've provided enough flexibility to give people options. So originally, when we rolled it out, so
If they didn't
I've
put their
explained
kid.
some stuff previously by talking about crawled and walked and run. And so when we opened up the application, we knew that we were going to get an influx of citizens. And so the first round was for those over the age of 18. And then, and you can apply, you could append a minor to your application. But for those minors that were under the age of 18,
They could be
but
added.
maybe the parent or guardian is not a citizen and therefore they couldn't be appended, then we opened that up on June 7th.
Yeah.
And so providing enough flexibility, I think we have that, Counselor, that option to go back and append, but I want to make sure that it works correctly and we get a few tests squared away to make sure before I answer that officially. So, but for right now, if people want to get that child set up because it was missed or they're new citizens, they could, in the short term, create an email account and sign up that individual child.
So I'm still telling them right.
Yeah.
And but that will work as long as this program's going on, right?
Correct.
I mean, if they choose to do that. But what Todd helped me with, and it's still a thing, because I'll tell them about it, and they'll say, hey, it worked. You may know this. Do you want to explain it, Todd? The getting on Gmail and even Yahoo is merging. And they'll, hey, I'm going to talk a little bit more, Todd. But, so, like the parent did put their kids underneath them, and they're saying, I got mine, but my kid's nowhere to be found. Then old Todd called me and said, do this, and it has worked. Go for it.
So we are sending out payments rather than sending a batch of $8,000. And the difficulty that lies in that is the fact that the treasurer needs to be able to allocate every dollar that's transmitted and it goes to an individual citizen. So if I'm a parent and I have 3 kids in my household and I claim all 3 of those kids, instead of me getting a $8,000 payment and it just comes to me, we're transmitting each of those individual payments on behalf of every citizen. And so every application, so in my case, if I have those 3 kids and I should be receiving 4 total payments, I'm going to get 4 separate emails. However, most commercial applications like Gmail and Yahoo and others,
This is the good part.
they will do what's called conversation grouping or nesting. And so if the subject line is exactly the same, all of those emails that, and what that's designed for is if I send an email to Sean and he replies back to it, and then I reply back to him and he replies back to me again, I can see all of that conversation in one thread instead of trying to find every email back and forth. But the way we're transmitting these payments, they all have the same subject line, and so there is a setting inside Yahoo and Google to unnest or ungroup those, and you see every individual email, and in that case, in my example, I would get 4 separate emails, one for myself and one for the 3 dependents in the household as well. So if you are not seeing your children's information, you may go back and look and turn on that conversation grouping or turn it off. And you'll see each and every individual email.
Conversation view is Google's.
Correct.
If they will get on their PC and go to the settings and turn off conversation view, that's really helped me with quite a few families. And popped up. So, thank you. Hope that turned out better than my law enforcement advice. Thank you.
Junior.
Okay, on that, did we put that out anywhere where they could do that? That would have saved a lot if we would have made that public, wouldn't it? Has that been put out?
We didn't know everyone wanted to be Indian,
We'll update that and get that information out there.
Okay. Well, I just want to brag on the bunch that was in South, all those youth kids. They did a tremendous job, and we're going to have to bring them back. It was such a good success. We'll have to bring them back in July. Victoria, the phone will ring 21 times before it cuts off. I've done it twice. It's 21 times it will ring. Another thing, I think we need to get out there better about those false ones, like the alert the other day. Did any of y'all get that one that said alert, and they said it was a bogus and they need more money, more information? And alert was misspelled.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all seen that one? On the bogus deal, and there's another one come out, I was showed at the ball game last night, and it had a different address from Chase Morgan. So when we're aware of those, don't we need to put that out more so our people will know that? Because this one lady did that with the alert one. She's the one that brought it to my attention because she called me crying and said that after it's over and her kids come over, that they told her, they said, Mom, this is not right. And so she don't know if she lost her money or not. But somehow we need a hotline to inform people on that when a false one comes out like that. Is that possible?
Well, if there has been more than the one, I was made aware of one, and we did put a media alert out on Facebook, a scam alert, and tried to communicate that in a couple different ways. People are sneaky, and there are some key things to take a look at. I've individually responded to people through social media and text messages verifying if that's legitimate or not. I've only had the one that I've been given example of, so if you guys do have other examples, please forward those to me and we'll take a look at them. And but the greatest thing I'm going to suggest is there's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of potential scams that are going to be out there, and it would be difficult for us to manage every image and every message to say this one's scam. But if you get an email like that, you should always hover over the sending email address, look for typos, and if you hover over it and it doesn't go to JP Morgan Chase, that is not legitimate. And a lot of time it's going to be some random number in a long string. So be cautious of those things and hover over them to make sure where it's going to redirect you to. And if it's not going to JP Morgan Chase or Cherokee.org, I would be leery of those things.
Okay, so, well, like that one last night, it said JP Morgan Chase there, but then it was a different address. Will that go through?
But if they click on the link and they complete that information and provide their details, then it could, much like any other scam that's out there, if you're going to provide your information, there is a potential that it could be fraudulent.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Buzzard.
I know, I'm aware, and you just said a while ago, the non-Indian parent could sign up on June the 7th, I believe. Yeah, I got an email from a parent just like that. She's non-Indian, and she checked the status of the application for her 3 kids, and she said all it said is new. Is that, what does that mean?
So once an individual submits an application, I believe the status says new initially.
Okay.
We allow them 48 hours to review, and then after that 48 hours, if they don't have any changes or amendment to that application, it then goes to in progress. And basically what that does is we lock that, so to make sure that we don't collect that and try to transmit it to the bank, and then the individual gets in and changes the address, and now we got disparity between the data. So when it goes into in progress, it means it's pending for us to transmit to the bank. Then once it gets transmitted to the bank and it's confirmed that it's received by JP Morgan Chase and it's ready to go out, we'll update the status there as well. And then once it's
So
paid
new-
and we get confirmation, then we'll update the status
Okay,
again.
so new is,
Yeah.
is that text. Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Daryl, did you have something? There's somebody
I
over
have a
here.
question.
Todd, when and where do people go to get the paper applications? I still have people that are waiting on those to be out. What department do I send them to?
If you'll give us just a little bit of time, we're working on a process.
Okay.
But we'll make an announcement next week.
Yes, two things. I think those youths that are helping us out, that's so efficient, they must work for Chick-fil-A, because they're one of the most efficient drive-through franchises I think I've ever been associated with. Second, I've had a handful of people that are wanting to donate some of their money or all their money. So I gave them the Cherokee Education Foundation. So if you get that issue, they may want to donate the whole amount or some. And I'm beginning to get those calls, mostly from elderly people.
Right.
So anyway, and I want to have Teddy post that on our council website. And you guys might have additional ideas or information you want her to do, but I've got her working on putting that on Facebook. But Trey, you and your staff are doing an excellent job. It's really uncommon for us Cherokees to have this kind of issue where we're trying to give money to our people, and we're having those type of difficulties instead of just lining up. So, in spite of all that, you guys are really doing a good job. I've heard very few complaints. The only questions I have is, when do I get mine? Is there any particular order that they're sending out these checks? And, I just say, no, they're just doing the best they can. There's no particular sequence, but you will get yours all in good time.
Well, thank you for that. The team is working very hard, but I must say that it's not just finance. Everyone from registration to IT and, folks that are working the call center, it's definitely a team effort, and there's a lot of different departments that are involved, and everyone, it's all hands on deck, and everyone's working really hard. So I appreciate the kudos from you for finance, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that this is not just finance's efforts. It's a whole stream of people that are
We're good at
pitching
that. With
in.
30,000 calls a day, I get a handful that are trying to be Indian and don't know how. And they said, how do we become Indian? And some of them have hung up on me. I said, well, it's just like being part of Sam's Club, pay about $100, a month or a year, then you can be, then they just click. So anyway, I said, if they would have stayed with me, I would have walked them through it, but they didn't want to be Indian real bad, so thank you. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And to your point, Trey, that it's a group effort, if our registrar is listening, I talked to a gentleman yesterday who said he had brought a family member down who had lost their blue card, and they went to Sequoia to get a replacement photo ID, and he said they were in and out in 15 minutes. He was just amazed. And so, to your point, everybody's rolling up their sleeves and getting after it. So I appreciate it nationwide, the way everybody's working together. Is there anything else, anybody that hasn't spoken? Okay, we'll let you go, Trey. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, Stephanie is on the phone. Diane, I believe, is actually in Pryor today, taking care of a new business venture up there. And so we have the lovely and talented Stephanie Isaacs here to try and fill Diane's shoes, so good luck with that.
You know, those are huge shoes.
They
and
are.
I've tried for 22 years and I'm not even close. So, yes, Diane regrets she cannot be here today. She is up doing what she does best, getting jobs for our area. She's meeting with the canoe people today, and Gail was nice enough to provide this handout for you, some more information on that venture that's happening in Mays County. You also have our report. I just have two small things to add, I know, which is unusual for our report and career services, but I would like to remind you that the prior open house is Wednesday, July 7th at 11 a.m. And then on page, one little note, I think it's on page 5 of your report. I think we've got about 493 or 92 summer youth, and that was of the first part of June. I'm proud to report that as of today, we have 615 on the summer youth program, which is good for us. So I'll be happy to try and answer any questions and take back the ones I don't know the answer to. We'll get you the answers.
Counselor Shambaugh, did you have something? Okay. All right, Stephanie, they're going easy on you, so tell Diane to prepare double next time.
Oh, she'll be more than ready. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for being here. And a night from Commerce, excuse me.
Well,
Tell us something good, Anna.
I do usually report to Diane, so you probably
I think
could
we
say-
all do, from the chief on down.
Well, I just, you have a copy of our report. I would just like to point out, I wanted to make sure that a lot of people will start getting their child care tax credit checks next month from the IRS. And if you talk to any of your constituents about it, this is an advance on the child care tax credit that they usually would get back on their tax return. So by getting these checks, and they can opt out through the IRS if they choose, but by getting these checks early, their tax returns are going to be reduced from what they normally get next fall. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, so I just wanted to point that out. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Counselor Buzzard.
On the child tax care credits,
Mm-hmm.
is that a separate application they go and do?
No, that's with the federal government, the IRS, and so they are going to advance people their child care tax credit that they would normally include on their tax return. And people will start getting checks in July. I think they're supposed to start July 15th. And it's for people that would normally file the earned income or the child care tax credit, and it is I think it's about $300 for children under 6, and then it goes down as the children get older. So it'll be coming from the IRS, and they're just going to automatically mail it out.
So if a person went in and filed the first day that they got their W-2 forms, would they have filed for the child tax care credit?
Yes, as long as they have the children when they filed
Okay.
this last year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Anna? Looks like Daryl's got one.
And I saw something where it was 6 and under was 3,600, and 18 and under was 3,000.
Right, that's the normal credit. And so what they're going to do is they're going to make payments, monthly payments, advancing that money in July, August, September, October, November, December, and then the second half of it they'll get on their tax return when they file their taxes. Does that make sense? Okay.
Anything else for Anna? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Brings us down to our consent items. The tarot certifications were in your book. I would entertain a motion to approve those. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, a new community assistance, back page only. Well, no, it's all of it, it looks like, but the back page is the top page. If you have anything to add, Jody's up.
We have, I've got some to add that
Okay,
I'll go ahead.
and
They
then
gave to me after Gail printed the list. Counselor Duncan and Crittenden are going to split $4,000 to the Stillwell Fire Department, and Counselor Duncan is adding $1,000 for Chulio Cemetery and $500 for Fellowship Baptist Church. And I just wanted to add too, on top of what, on that child tax credit, if parents are divorced and they rotate custody of children, they probably would want to opt out because it wouldn't be based on last year, the custodial parent, and they're probably not going to be the custodial parent, that they share on their tax return. So they're going to get all the money and turn around and owe it back because the other parent's going to actually be claiming it this year. So that's going to be an issue if you don't opt out, so.
Okay, Counselor Crittenden?
Jody, Ann and I are splitting 2,000, New Life Church backpack program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any additions? If not, Daryl, would you give me a motion? Got a motion and a second on community assistance. All those in favor? Any opposition? There was also a new law enforcement sheet passed out. Additions for Victoria, Dora, and myself. Thank you. Can I get a second? Motion and second on the law enforcement. All those in favor? Any opposition?
Aye.
Okay. I think they pass. The roads projects were in your books.
I have a couple of additions.
Okay.
For Councilor Buzzard, under motor vehicle tax, Monroe Street, $91,450, and Delaware County District 2 pothole patching, $40,005.
Have a motion and second on the roads projects. All those in favor? Any opposition? Livestock, looks like there was one new one, and it's in Sequoia County, so why don't you give me the motion? Motion and second. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay. Brings us down to old business. There's none pending. There is a resolution. Jody, or would you amend the agenda to add this resolution, please?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the agenda to add this resolution. You may go ahead and read what it is. This resolution authorizing an application to the Bureau of Indian Affairs Native American Business Development Institution Grant Program. So I'd like to amend the agenda to that and put that in form of motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on that, and I think everybody here is well aware that I don't like to amend the agenda. This came in the day, like on the 9th day, when you need 10 days to get it on the agenda, and it is a grant opportunity, so that's the only reason I agreed to amend. So unless somebody has some questions about it, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, that carries. And then that brings us down to our budget mod.
This is an act amending Legislative Act 17-20, authorizing the comprehensive operating budget for fiscal year 2021-Mod 9, and declaring emergency. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion and a second. Jody, do you have any comments about that?
I just wanted, one thing I would like to point out on item 4, it's the COVID-19 ARPA. It's an additional $273 million plus that came in for IHS. They're only looking to budget $30 million of it in this year at this point, so. Those
Okay.
are IHS funds on top of the $1.8 billion that we received, so.
That's on page 5 of this budget mod. So if there are no other questions, all those in favor? Any opposition?
Aye.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of our business. Are there any announcements on Keith's side of the? Okay. Joe, would you introduce that again, please?
Make a motion on the resolution authority authorizing application to the Bureau of Indian Affairs Native American Business Development Institute Grant Program. Put that in the form of a motion.
Have a motion and a second on this grant opportunity. All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Back to announcements. Does anybody have one?
I just got a real short one. Tuesday, we'll finalize out my district with the COVID relief for the 2,000 that we're getting everybody signed up for. But our last one's at Greenwood, 11 to 1, Tuesday of next week, just FYI.
Counselor Shambaugh?
There's going to be a sign up in J on the 30th of June, so at the food distribution place.
Perfect. Does anybody else have anything? If I don't, could I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor of adjournment? Okay. Do I hear any opposition? Because you're going to be lonely.